A police review has found that homophobia was at the centre of a third of cases involving the deaths of gay men between 1976 and 2000. But many of the victims' relatives have accused police of skimming over the issue of anti-gay bias among those who investigated the crimes.
For Peter Rolfe, the police review into the deaths of dozens of gay men means very little.
My partner, Stephen Dempsey, was murdered at Deep Creek in Narrabeen in 1994.
He was shot with a bow and arrow in a park where gay men regularly met for casual sex. Detectives found no evidence of a gay hate crime, despite his killer serving a life sentence for murder.
Richard Leonard was diagnosed as a dystonic homosexual. That means that he abhorred his own homosexuality and took it out on other homosexuals.
To get into the mind of an offender is not simple.
Strikeforce Parabel was set up 3 years ago to identify gay hate crimes. 86 cases were reviewed, with 23 referred to the Unsolved Homicide Squad. Of the 63 cases solved, a third of the men were killed, most likely for being gay. Police didn't find enough evidence to classify the remaining 42 cases as gay hate murders.
Anti-gay bias does not always leave a physical trace.
The inquiry also looked at whether police were biased in their investigations at the time.
It was very, very difficult for us to identify bias attributable to the investigators.
Police and academics agree that the task of identifying homophobia as a motivator for crime was virtually impossible. Perhaps even more difficult was uncovering bias within the force, and that sparked calls for an independent inquiry.
And I would want a parliamentary inquiry to examine matters such as the relationship between the LGBTIQ community and the state's police force when it comes to matters such as identifying bias.
The other limitations too, I think, it's police looking at police practice, so police investigating, if you like, police.
Well, it's very frustrating, very, very frustrating.
For Peter Rolfe and those still desperate for answers, Mark Reddie, ABC News, Sydney.